Chris Appau, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Are you a pastor or are you a minister? Minister Chris Appau, Pastor Chris, Reverend, Prophet, Evangelist?
Well, I'm not a pastor yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm a music director. I'm a music producer. I'm a gospel artist. I'm a worship leader in my church.
Yeah.
And basically, I mean, I'm somebody who loves Jesus and wants the whole world to know I love Jesus.
Yeah, beautiful. I don't know. Well, I when I knew you from Legon, I didn't know you were a singer. Have you always been singing, or is something that you started doing recently?
No, I've always been singing from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think that you are a clear example of someone we can call a multi-talented person. Because I don't know what instrument you don't play. Okay, you're a singer.
I don't play wind instruments.
Okay, well, at least
I tried the trumpet once and it was too much stress, so I just quit the class.
You should try the sax. The sax is easy and fantastic, and I think you will do very well on the sax. You know, and so you play the keyboard so well. When you should hear him play the keyboard, it's like that's all he plays. And then you play the drum so well, you play the bass so well, you sing, you direct, you're a sound engineer, you are a music producer, studio engineer, it's like everything all together. And it's a blessing. Yes. And we are very happy to have you here, and it's a blessing to have people like you, someone like you in Ghana, you know. And I believe that, you know, there's so much God will do with you.
Amen.
In the future. And so many people are excited to know that you're on the show today.
Wow.
And I believe we're going to be discussing things that will be a blessing to them. Like we said, we are going to be talking about building an effective music ministry in church.
Yeah.
All right. If an effective music ministry, and that's what this show is about. Okay. We talk about every Saturday. It's all about music in church, music in church music, and how we can be better musicians, better instrumentalists, and better sound people, just so that the service can go well and God will be able to flow, and you know, music will be fantastic in church. Yeah. So that's what we're going to be discussing. But before we go into it, I want you to tell us what you think is an effective worship music team or music ministry. So we take a church in particular. What characteristics should the music team have that you think will make them, or we can call them, an effective music ministry?
Well, I think for us to call something effective, when he sent me the topic, I looked for the meaning of the word effective from the dictionary. And it said, well, producing a decided, decisive, and desired effect.
Okay.
So I am looking at a ministry that combines the music and the essence of the ministry.
Okay.
In a very balanced manner.
Okay.
That doesn't only lean towards one side, but is very balanced all round in achieving the very vision result of the church, or the desired result. Okay. Yes.
So I like what you just said about, to achieving the vision of the church. So it's actually being subjective. An effective music ministry or music team it actually depends on the particular church and the vision of the church.
Yes.
So it's not something that can be generalized.
Yes.
Okay.
I can cite an example. For about 7 years now, I've been working with Reverend East Udanaba as music director of East Udanaba Ministries.
Wow, okay.
And he happened to be doing a restructure in Desert Pastures in Bolga.
Okay.
And requested for me to come and do the restructure. I've worked with him for about 7 years.
Okay.
But immediately I got to Bolga, I asked for a meeting with Reverend East.
Okay.
And he himself, he was shocked I asked for the meeting. But I sat him down and said, well, Daddy, I want to know what the vision of the church is.
Okay.
And what exactly your music philosophy is. What you want to achieve with the music. Because once it's church and it's not a non-denominational music group.
Yeah. And once it's because he's called as a man of God with a particular mandate.
With a mandate, thank you. That's the word. He's called with a particular mandate that generates his message.
Yeah.
And so the music as a form of expression should express the same message. It should veer towards the same mandate and should help to achieve whatever vision God has given the man of God of the house.
Okay.
I believe very strongly in that. It's something I really believe in.
Yeah.
So I mean, the music is not an end in itself. It's a means by which we all want to create an experience for the people who come Sunday after Sunday to encounter the mandate God has given his servant.
Yeah.
I think that's a very important foundation.
Yeah. So and I think that music team members and music directors and music leaders in church need to understand this thing.
Yeah.
That you, of course, you are called into the ministry. It's God you are serving, but you are serving under a man of God who he has called.
Yeah.
And who has been given a mandate, like we said before. Yeah. So you need to. So your music you make and all your efforts must complement.
Yeah.
It's like a keyboardist playing along with a singer.
Yeah.
You are accompanying. It's not your show.
Yeah.
You are helping. You are trying to make the singing sound nicer.
Yeah.
Rather than the raw singing.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to make it sound. So music team people need to understand this. Tony, what are your views about this?
So Chris has said it all. Understanding the vision of the house. So it's actually proper for a music director to ask the pastor that, Daddy, please, what song would you want us to do this week? Is there any song you have for us? Rather than going, taking what you want to do based on what you feel about it. You went for some concert and they did this wow song and you think, Charlie, when we do it, it will work. You get it. But you ask yourself, is it going in line with the vision of the house? Is it going in line with what your father wants? The father of the house is directing.
Yeah. Because
once that is not being done, I think the check boxes are not checked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chris. So I think let's continue. You're going to talk about the so it's just the explanation of the word effective. That's what has brought us this far.
Yes.
Charlie, it's too powerful.
Please go ahead. And I was going to say that if you work with the pastor I work with in church, who is Pastor Kingsley, Reverend Kingsley Appau, Trinity Baptist Church.
Okay.
He sat down with us one day. I mean, when I got to Trinity, we had the same meeting with Pastor Kingsley. I don't take a job and not find out what the music philosophy of the church is.
Yeah.
Because I believe that a musician is supposed to be so multifaceted that your knowledge is not only limited to one part of music. You should be so broad in your approach. So when you go to a particular place, you don't decide to bring all that broadness there is to you there if it doesn't work. Okay. And the best way to limit it is to ask the head of the house or the father of the house what exactly his agenda is. And I remember we sit with Pastor Kingsley to ask him this. And he tells us the message God has given him to preach. And then we ask him, okay, so what about songs? In terms of songs, would you do foreign or local or which one would you do?
Yeah.
Then he looks at us and says, I'm not the musician here. You are the musicians. My job is to write the vision and paint it very clearly for you to see. How you execute it is your job.
You catch the vision
you
and run along.
You catch the vision because everybody functions in graces. And I believe that what we do in the music ministry is part of what is called the ministry of helps. And if you look at the ministry of helps, it's not a standalone in its own in church.
Yeah.
It is called ministry of helps because it is a
helping
to the vision.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need to be a musician. I am the musician. Now, what guides the songs I select? I come from a very typical Baptist setting.
Okay.
Where, for example, on Communion Day, all your songs, like from adoration time to song ministration are in the line of communion.
The blood.
Yes, the blood, the sacrifice on the cross. Everything about communion, the power in the blood to heal. That's how the service is run. So you sort of work in a themed environment.
Okay.
So it's not about this is the latest song that has come out. It really is about how would this song fit into the context of the service. Yeah. I mean, I work in a typical Baptist setting where the sermon outlines for the first quarter of the year or the first half of the year are given to you, and the preacher won't veer off. And the reason why they are given to you is because they expect that you look at the sermon and create an experience with the service that will contribute to the sermon.
Okay.
Yes. So when it comes to the ministry bit, and these things we are talking about are the foundations of the ministry bit. When I was preparing for this, I wrote that when we talk about music ministry, it is music and ministry. The music gives you the what to do. The ministry gives you the how to do what you are doing. So I could be an excellent singer,
but you're not a minstrel.
If this is the message of my pastor, I can't be singing. Let me give you a typical example.
Give us examples.
Reverend Eastwood believes in God, bringing streams out of the desert. And his messages are always encouraging people and lifting people up. And so in Fountain Gate, I won't go and sing a song that suggests that it is okay to die poor. I won't be called there again.
That's right.
Because that is like opposite the message God has given his servant. And here I'm not talking about right or wrong. I'm talking about contextually what fits. So I could have the latest songs in town, but if it doesn't fit with the context of the mandate God has given my pastor, I can't sing it in my church. The best I can do is to do my own concert, and then you can sing whatever you want to sing.
I think we can actually close the show now, because I'm so blessed, and I believe that you are so blessed listening to. And I think that if a lot of music directors can have this mind and understand this, I think a lot of the problems you're having in church will
and to say something on this, we have this issue in Ghana where a lot of people talk about their churches and not supporting and pastors, and by the grace of God, in the past 4 years, I've done a lot of traveling in Ghana for churches, to help churches restructure music departments, and in a lot of the places I've gone, or let me say in about 50% of the places I've gone, the scenario is the pastor feels this guy is very talented but doesn't speak his language. So he doesn't feel that supporting you will champion his agenda. There are serious cases where the guy is doing everything and the church is not supporting as much as he wants to get. That's a different case. I'm talking about a case where the pastor is inclined towards this line,
but
and
you have chosen
the minstrel wants to do whatever he wants to do.
You cannot submit to his
because he thinks he has a certain non-denominational ministry or something, and when he goes there and is so excited by what they are doing there,
and the feedback he gets from out there,
and the feedback he gets from out there, you feel. But when you enter church, if the discussion we are having is about church, it puts it in a different context. It puts it in a different context in the sense that we are supposed to contribute. The basis is for us to contribute to the vision of the house. When you listen to guys like Eben, Sinach, and co, part of the reason why they are where they are today is because all their song lyrics are vetted by Pastor Chris himself. So it's difficult to find them sing things that is why anywhere Pastor Chris is preaching in the world, he can call Eben or call Sinach and give them the stage. Because after all, he knows the lyrics they are going to sing. And it contributes to his message. So he will put you on any stage anywhere in the world. Because at the end of the day, it is connected to the mandate he carries. It is connected to the message he's carrying. And I think that's a foundation for me. That's a foundation for me.
So that's a foundation of an effective music ministry. So it's not that you sing and people applaud you and it's like generally you're a fantastic singer, or it's not even that you sing and people feel that you are anointed. That's not what it essentially makes you effective. It's you're being able to flow with the mandate the man of God you are working under is being given. I don't know if
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's a very
key.
That's key.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
key. That's
Wow.
really key.
So like you said, music ministry is the music and the ministry.
Yeah.
So this, what you just said,
It's the ministry.
is the ministry
Yeah.
aspect. Is the ministry aspect, and it's important that music team members, and I think that everything really starts from the leader of the music team,
Yeah.
right? So the leader of the music team has to be able to understand and be able to marry these two. And if you understand what your pastor actually wants, you understand your pastor's mandate. That's what makes you choose the type of music you do,
Yeah.
and actually how you do the music.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow. Okay, Chris. So I want us to move a little away from this. Okay, still with the music as a
Yeah.
team, an effective music team. But what are some of the things? Last week, someone asked the question: how does a music team a leader organize or structure the music ministry? Now we're talking about structure. Okay. For it to be effective. I know this
Well,
is very wide and very broad, but
Yeah. Okay, so I'll speak to a few direct issues.
okay.
That number one is I am a big fan that we should audition in church.
Okay.
And the reason I'm starting from there is everything about our execution as a department depends on what you have available.
Okay.
And the best system by which you can know what you have available is to audition.
Okay.
I mean, in as much as it is a ministry, I think it is biblical. It's even not that I think. It is biblical. If you read from excerpts like 1 Chronicles 15,
Okay.
Chenaniah, who was the head of the music team, was asked to select singers. He was asked to choose certain of which would play specific instruments. Then the verse ends by saying he himself was chosen because he was skilled about the music. So yes, it is ministry, but it is not a prayer ministry. It is not an ushering ministry. It is not any other ministry but a music ministry, and therefore
It's a ministry that requires
the
specialty.
musical skill cannot be placed aside. It should be tested, and we should know that if you are putting somebody somewhere, the person is skilled in what the person does.
Charlie, but this
This is
our
a bit
choirs will
difficult.
finish in church because
No.
I'm coming. I agree with you. It's fantastic. I agree with you 100. If I'm more than 100%. But the thing is, the approach to raising a choir or a music team generally in churches is that it's more like whosoever will may come type of approach.
Which is wrong. Which is wrong because now, if I catch you coveting your neighbor's property, why is it wrong? Because scripturally it's wrong.
It's wrong.
Scripturally, singers
Are to be
were
selected.
appointed. And you see, this doesn't really make any sense until you find the portion of scripture that says many are called, but few are chosen. Where there is a choosing, it gives the impression that there are many and some are chosen. By the grace of God, I'm a professional musician. I have sat on reality show auditions and things. But this is what I realize. This is what should occur to us. God deserves the best of everything. And it must always be our inclination to give God the best. Now, when I say give God the best, it is still relative to what you have available. I have done auditions for church choirs where the criteria I went with had to drop in the audition.
Your bar was too high.
Because after doing, and I asked them to bring their best 5. After doing the best 5,
none of them.
I realized, no, if I was marking by my scheme, the best of them was still below average.
Okay.
So what I do in those contexts is to still do the audition. But you see, we don't do auditions in church to sack people like we do in the secular world.
Professional.
If it is a professional thing, a pastor calls me and says, I want to employ 12 full-time musicians to be on standby and to do music for the church. That one, if you don't make the audition, I'm supposed to ask you to go home because it is, in as much as it is work, it is church, it is work. And for work, there should be a criteria you should fulfill.
Okay.
But when it becomes a voluntary thing, then a certain level can be allowed on condition that the church will train. Because God deserves the best. And anytime we compromise that, we compromise the blessing the ministry will bring out, especially after the meeting. This is so important for me. You can sing in church and everybody feels happy about themselves and you go home until you listen to the recording of what you did. And the reason why that is important is for people like me, I heard about Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir, TD Jake's choir,
Potter's House.
Potter's House Mass Choir. Yeah. I knew the choir even before I knew there was a church called Potter's House.
Right.
I got to know of the choir, listened to their songs, especially at the time when Kevin Bond was producing and directing. I listened to a lot of their songs and fell in love with a lot of their music before I later realized, it was a church choir. Like it was.
I actually, I was also surprised that Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir was a church choir.
Oslo.
And a lot of the other people. So you see, we have to get to the point where we understand that the impact of the service and the mandate of the house should go beyond
the sitting,
the service. If that message becomes very loud in our minds, then we will talk about excellence and not just be okay with what happens in the service. So if she sings and it didn't really go well musically, but people jumped about and all that, well, by the grace of God, during the Corona season, if you studied a lot of church live streams, it began with the full service being streamed. Then some 2-3 weeks into the season, people started taking their music ministrations off, and the stream begins when the preacher is about to preach or when there's church announcement or offering time or something. And for me, that was a very negative sign for church music because it meant that a lot of the music we were doing in church that we were okay with was not actually okay to put out there.
Yeah, you could actually be deceived by the ambient sound because but
and some of the things that cause these deceptions in ambient sound and all these things is the fact that we are not very truthful about the positions we give to people and the people we allow to stand behind microphones. Any church I have directed, this is characteristic. You don't stand behind a microphone until you've earned your spot. It's characteristic. So number one, the auditions must work. For any music director in church, what auditions does for you is number one, it gives you a very realistic picture of what you are dealing with.
Know your men.
Yes. I mean, it gives you a very realistic picture. And when we talk about auditions, it's not just you pick a key and let the singer sing scale songs and you are increasing key and it ends there. No. What exactly are you testing for in the audition? You are looking for note accuracy. You are looking for note precision. You are looking for breath control. You are looking for ability to harmonize. You are looking for, if the person is a lead singer, you put the person on the spot and ask the person to riff, or ask the person to run, or ask the person to do multiple versions of a song. All those things are abilities. There's about a 12-chart system by which we assess singers. And you see, we should be able to do that because when we are doing it for ourselves, even in our personal lives or in our business lives, if you run a business and want to employ a manager, I'm not sure you just employ somebody on the basis of, I have a strong passion for managing. And so I give you the job to manage my business. No, it doesn't work like that.
That's right.
And I think God deserves better than this.
Yeah.
So we should be able to test and know. Obviously, there are no-go areas. You don't audition to sack people, but trust me, a singer who can't sing on key, can't sing on time, and can't memorize lyrics,
Can't remember lyrics.
cannot help your
Remember
department.
lyrics. Okay.
I mean, if you can't sing on key, you can't sing in time, and you can't remember lyrics,
And then remember arrangements.
then I can't help you. No, because even before we talk about harmonies, you have to be able to sing on key for us to talk about harmonies. You have to be able to sing on time before we talk about harmonies. So if you can't sing on key, you can't sing on time. And I mean, by the grace of God, I have shocked people with this, but in the work field, I won't hesitate at all.
To sack.
No.
Okay, so let's bring this to church.
No, I'm talking about in church.
In church, okay. So in church, so what does a music director? Maybe there's a music director listening to this show, and he actually realizes that it's true. I want to, and decides to do auditions.
Okay.
Now, in a typical church choir, you have all these people who can't really sing, can't sing at all, can't hold a note right, it's like they just add to the numbers. What do you do with these people? Do you keep them to just encourage the numbers and put the best people in front? How do you manage this type of situation?
It depends on the system you are working in. The reason why I say it depends on the system you are working in is there are different kinds of people. And okay, so I was talking to one of my one of my daughters over the week. She has a similar problem in church. And the first question I asked her is, are you sure this thing is what your pastor wants you to do? And the reason why I went there was because it's in church. There are people who won't understand what you are doing and will take you up the ladder. And you have to be sure if they take you up the ladder, your pastor understands the context of what you are doing. That is why when I went to Bolga, Desert Pastures, I was actually going to re-audition the choir, do a reorientation and everything for them. I had to talk to Reverend Eastwood himself and be sure exactly what he was looking for.
Yeah.
So what I will recommend is that you write a proposal to your pastor and say, listen, this is what I think the potential of our ministry can bring. This is where I think we can go. And this is my plan. I want to re-audition. I want to have these people sit on the bench for a while whilst I train. Listen, no pastor will agree that you send people off the stage just like that. There has to be a certain there has to be a structure in place to help them. Because in most of the cases, the passion is there. It's the ability that is not there. So if you are taking the person off stage, it is not just taking the person off stage and that's it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yes. And so there should be that system. And then also, I think that as a people, we have to be realistic about whether we are into numbers or into quality.
Okay.
Because you could have a 50-man choir on stage and you can't listen to what they are saying. And then you have 10 people too on stage and the job is done. And I mean, I don't know it all. I'm just telling you what works in my domain. By the grace of God, I started directing music, I think, in 2004. Yes, and God has been gracious till now. So I'm just telling you what works in my domain. So for a music director who is in this situation, number one, you would have to make your standards very clear to the team if it involves showing them videos of choirs, church choirs that are doing the same thing around the world. I won't show my choir a video of Fred Hammond. I won't show my choir a video of Marvin Sapp because Fred Hammond's team is not a church choir. But I can show you a video of Potter's House Mass Choir, Oslo Mass Choir, Hillsong, Brooklyn Tabernacle. They are all church groups. If they could do this, we could do it. If we will do it, then we will need to audition. We will need to reorient ourselves. And the reason why reorientation must come in is because sometimes it's not the ability, it is the attitude that is wrong. We have a lot of church singers who don't know how to rehearse on their own.
Who won't even download the song and listen
singers. Exactly.
when you post it on the WhatsApp page.
So realistically, we have a lot of church singers who don't even have a vision for progress.
That's it.
They don't have a vision for progress. There's this thing I do a lot when I start working with a new choir. I meet choristers and I ask them, so what are your plans? Like, what are your plans for life? And 80% of the time,
there's no
the music ministry he or she is doing in church is not part.
It's not part of it.
So realistic, because if you meet me anywhere and ask me, what are your plans? I mean, even in those times when I was a student in IPMC and I didn't know how to do music professionally, even then, music was still part of my plans.
Your plans in life.
And at that time, the only music I was doing was church. I was just a keyboardist in church. So if I ask you what your plans are, and I don't find the music in there, then personally, you are not going where I'm going. So we have to find out whether you want to go there, and then I orient you on how to get there, or how to start working with me, or we can work.
Chris, there are some people in the music team that you know that when someone has the gift of music, but they just need to be developed, you can tell.
Yeah.
And you can also tell when the person is like, this one, dear, God didn't give it to you. Because it's like, there is no...
Yeah.
It's almost like no matter how hard you try, you have to spend so much time on them, but still not. What do you do with such people?
So even over there, there's still a question to ask. Spending so much time, you see, when it comes to education, if you ever sat in a lecture before, you know that by the time the lecture exceeded 2 hours, at most, your mind is gone. Like, you are not in the lecture. Because normally when it comes to teaching and learning, the attention span is 45 minutes. You go to a lot of seminars, they do a 45-minute session, then there's a break. Then they come back and do another 45-minute session. So, for the time I am investing, do I see signs that you actually want to get there? If I see those signs, I will commit a period of time, say 1 year, and tell you I have committed this amount of time. I want to see you here. If not, we call it a day.
Maybe join the prayer ministry
and
pray.
And you see, I don't know why when we pursue careers and they don't work, we don't feel wrong about it to change career and move to something else. But when we are doing something in church and it's not working, we don't want to accept that.
They've sacked me from the choir.
It's not working.
Wow, this is fantastic, and I'm getting some really interesting messages here. This is from Mark Ado. He says, great show, Osofo Dani. I agree with what Minister Appau is saying, but how practical is this, especially in small, under-resourced, growing churches? And he says that when an able drummer wants... Okay, let me skip this. And okay, so he's trying to say that when you can't afford to hire a professional, to get somebody who can play well, but you have to give them TNT all the time. You cannot afford it. But then, and you just have to settle with the guy in church who cannot play well or who cannot sing well. But of course, that affects the quality of the music that you produce in church. I don't know if you understand the question.
Yeah, I've been in those situations before. I think, well, we would have to, because if you say small under-resourced, I have questions to ask. What's the size of the small? How much priority is the music? Because I'll give you an example. I happen to work with a church in Ablekuma, very small church. And then their music director calls me and says, they've built an auditorium. So I was supposed to be one of the ministers to minister in the opening. Mm-hmm. And I get to the place. And I look at the building. And I look at the people in the room. And I'm like, wow, in 4 months, these people put up this edifice. And it was a mind-blowing thing for me. And on that day, I came home, I told my wife something. I said, there's nothing we decide to do, we can't do, unless we don't want to do it. Mm. So it's not a matter of resources, it's a matter of priorities. It's really a matter of priority. Let me rephrase. I don't think, yes, for me personally, I don't think it's just a matter of resource. I think it's a matter of priority. What does music mean to the church? Are we ready to make the commitment to make it work? Mm.
So I think this generally depends on, just like you said, what's the value,
vision,
the vision of the church
and the pastor.
Yeah, because it can be a small church, but if the pastor maybe really likes music and feels like music
is a part
of the service, you see that investments are made.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you can actually have a big church with a lot of people, but I see the music ministry is very underdeveloped.
There's still little investment.
Yeah, you see it sometimes the pastor doesn't really... It's not like doesn't care, but doesn't really...
I'll give you an example. My pastor, Pastor Kingsley, he carries keyboards from the UK to bring to Ghana. So when an instrument is bought, you are really held accountable, simply because the general overseer of the church didn't send anybody. He carried the keyboards himself to Ghana. So that sort of reiterates how important the music ministry is to him. So it's not really just about resource. And like I'm saying, I'm speaking on a general base to this. I might not know exactly what the situation of the small and under-resourced is. But I think if we prioritize things and we give them the needed effort, they work.
I want to ask this question. So what happens if the music director is on the top notch, but then the pastor or the leader of the church is not? And you find yourself in that situation, what then will you do?
So you're trying to push. You want to really build a music team.
Yes, but then the pastor is also really not into it,
because he has to also want a music team.
That's it, of
a certain standard for it to actually work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you understand the question.
I do. So I think what happens is, this happened to me with a church. One of my friends, he's not really a friend, he's a senior man, Enoch Abasi, works in a church, and they had to improve their sound system. Okay. And they've spoken on several accounts, and the church still wouldn't budge. So he did a presentation. He did a whole presentation on how sound affects our services with calculations and things.
Wow.
So I know someone like Abase would do that.
Yeah, with calculations and things like proving what frequencies you can hear for what number of years and how it impairs your hearing. And I mean, they were vivid calculations. He did it the first time, they wouldn't agree. Then he did it the second time, they wouldn't agree. Then he did it a third time. When he did it the third time, it was now in comparison with some of the branches of their church who had improved their setting and the recordings from their services and things, and they agreed. So sometimes we have to find good ways of communicating whatever we want done. We have to find a way of communicating what you want done, understanding that once it is church, you work within a certain framework. Once it is church, we work within a certain framework. So you try once, twice, the third time, and this is what I recommend for everybody. We are not called for church, we are called for a kingdom. And God gives you a vision. When He gives you a vision for your life, He situates you in a certain Eden that is supposed to fuel your vision. And so, if you stay in a place and you feel that it is causing more grievance to you than the service you are rendering, it is okay to walk away. In that way, you don't create any trouble. And you don't serve out of a grieved heart. You don't serve out of a grieved heart. You just walk away quietly and believe God to situate you in the Eden that will fuel what you are doing. Because I think we all agree that it is wrong to serve God with grievances and with hurts and every day after church you are angry. And because the truth of the fact is, whether you like it or not, if you move, somebody will be found to do the job.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's not just about the work. You don't have to die doing some work, because when you die, somebody will be found to replace you. Even your family, they'll just cry for 1 week. And that's about it. So really, I feel that we should find ways of communicating. And when you communicate and it still doesn't work, and it gets to the point where it is beginning to make you frustrated and grieved, and I think you should find a way to just step aside quietly.
Well, our time is almost up, and I believe if you are listening to us, you've really enjoyed today's show. I have some messages here from Maurice. He says, very insightful discussions with Chris Appau. Thank you very much. This one is from some people, their WhatsApp names is you can't even pronounce. This one is, I'm very overwhelmed by these statements. Wow. I've never heard this discussion. I've not heard this discussion for a long time about church music. Church music has taken a reform. God bless you, ministers. This is from Justine. He says, I'm really enjoying today's discussion. God bless you. This one is also for Danny. So if the church leadership isn't prepared to commit to quality music, then the players or the members of the music ministry can't do much, right? In that case, what do we do? I think you answered that. Okay, so we're going now. I think you have to come back on the show. There are so many different aspects of you that we have to tap into. You are a fantastic sound engineer, and not just studio engineering. It's like live sound. And our church sound in churches generally needs healing.
Well, that's a topic for
it's a whole
day.
So we'll plan. I know you are quite a busy person, but we'll arrange so that you come back and be a blessing to us. Okay, so our time is up and we have to go. We have to go. I see messages popping up, but I don't know why you wait for last minute before you send messages. Because the radio runs according to time. See, it's time we have to go now, so I can't read your messages now. So please send them early next time. I'll try and reply you. I'll just text you and reply you. Thank you very much. Okay, please. So your final words, yes.
My final words will be that we all understand that God deserves the best, and as a music director in church, you can't compromise the quality of what we have to deliver to God. I think that should be the guiding force to everything we do. The fact that you've been given a mandate to deliver quality as far as musically expressing your church's mandate is concerned. And that is something you can't lose sight of. So to all the music directors out there, I would say to work hard and to learn. You yourself as a music director must constantly be learning to better yourself. Because there are also scenarios where the members think they know better than the music director.
And sometimes when you check, it's actually true.
And it's difficult for such music directors to convince the church to do anything. I say this in 2 minutes. By the grace of God, I was privileged to do audio survey in Prophet El Bernard's church. And we wanted them to do a few things. They told me the man won't agree. So I asked for a meeting with him. I sat with him and showed him the dimensions of his room and the reason why we had to do this acoustic here and that acoustic here. And the reason why some of the positions were wrong and the reason why certain things were supposed to be the way they were. He looked at me and said, okay, let's do it. This guy looks like he knows
he understands what he's saying.
So it means that if you get everybody to see that you really understand what you are talking about, we'll have more feedback and then we'll have more positive feedback.
Fantastic. I think we've had a great time with Minister Chris Appau. Thank you so much for coming. And like we said, you will come again. His song Akpekata got a nomination on Ghana National Gospel Music Awards. Okay, Akpekata by Chris Appau featuring Joe Metals, the best collaboration of the year. So please vote. It's voting, right?
Yes.
Is it about voting?
Yes. On www.ngmagh.com.
NGMAGH. So go there and vote. You've heard the song. I think it's a fantastic song. Go and vote. Thank you so much for coming, and I believe we'll have you. I wish I could say the next time you come, but we have to check your itinerary. But you come another time. Thank you so much for listening. Like I always say, please go to church tomorrow. Give your very best to God, and like Chris told us today, God deserves the very best. Just like we always say. God bless you. And have a fantastic weekend. Bye bye.
94.3 FM.